What's going on, guys? Back in the arena today. It's been a little bit. It's been a couple of weeks in between jumping back on here, but I've just come back from an incredible short but sweet break away with my mum and dad. Haven't seen them in it would have been 20 months. Yeah, a year and 8 months since I first moved out here to Finland, and it was incredible. Just so happened that when they began their travels over Europe for Euro Summer 23, like the most of NZ in Australia, that we had a week's break and no game that weekend, so I managed to get away for a bit of time during the season, which was quite incredible. Spending time with them during after that prolonged period, I guess you could say. I mean, it's never easy. It's one of the many sacrifices or the many opportunity costs that come with the pursuit of goals, of chasing something, of putting yourself out there in a place where you are removed. And that's family. One of them is the time with family, being in a comfortable environment of home, often moving away. It forces you to grow up, to level up, and to find out what you can achieve in other places in the world, which is an incredible experience. And there's so many lessons that come along with that at the same time. That time away, had some really, really incredible conversations with them about the future, about what I'm doing, about what I want to do, where I want to be, the things that I want to achieve, and just asking them based on their experience, not just in the sporting world but in life, and some steps I can take to get there. And it's pretty cool to be able to have those conversations with them in person and feel it. I think that's one thing that as we'd all have in common, is that personal connection, or the physical connection, right? It's like you can have these conversations over FaceTime, over Zoom, on the internet, with your family, with your friends, with loved ones, but there's nothing really like being with them in the same room, being able to hear them, to see them. And the thing for me, it's like having the opportunity to just say I love you, to give them a hug before you go to bed, to say good night and good morning, and simple things like asking, you want a cup of tea, and them being like, yeah, I'd love one. Like, things like that, it's just so special. And it was pretty cool to then come back into reality in some sense, and back to what I'm doing on the day-to-day, with training, with thinking about how to maximize my time. To be honest, the first couple of days were shit. There's a metaphor for it, right? It's like you go out for a party, you go out, you have a big night out, you have the best time of your life. Life's like a movie that night, blah, blah, blah. Incredible high, dopamine rush, and then the next day it's that massive crash and you feel like shit, and it's that hangover. And basically, yeah, those first couple of days were definitely a bit of a hangover in terms of, yeah, it was an incredible time, but just feels too short, you know? It's like you just want to spend a bit more time with them, stay longer, have those conversations, have another hug, and say I love you again, just things like that. But the time after that gave me a really, really good time to reflect and to think about some other things, and one of the topics that I want to talk about today is the standards in our life, and the standards that you set for yourself. And it's not just in one arena. It's not just. And I feel like personally right now, I'm a captain of a team, and in sport I've been in leadership positions before, and what I'm used to is in sport, and I feel like there's an obligation to maintain certain standards of the team, but also for yourself in terms of your performance, in terms of your approach to what you do. It could be pre-training activation, it could be during training. What are the standards that you're setting? How are you communicating? What the attention to little details. And I remember talking with Kyle in one of the episodes, and we were reflecting on the time that we had at Missouri State together and why we were so successful as a team. and it was because of the attention to detail in the tiny little areas. And one of the things that I'll always remember is people getting grilled for not starting behind the line, and this is like in pre-season. This is when we're talking about fitness drills. This is before even we do the fitness tests. All of the new guys that come into the team, they are automatically introduced to the culture because we set the standard that yes, you start behind the line and you touch the line whenever you turn, and then you finish through the line. That's always how it is, and that's the detail, because those things matter. And I think that some people will be like, oh, it's just a little bit of, it's a couple inches, right? It's a couple of millimeters. It doesn't make that much of a difference. But it's the mindset, because if you've ever been involved in sport, in high pressure situations, or it could be in work, it could be anything where the margins of error are so small between the pain of losing, of failure, of being so close and putting so much effort in to then come short and fall short of your goals and your personal expectations. That pain is so much worse than that little tiny attention to detail in the process and what it takes in order to achieve that big thing. Because that's the reality, right? Like, the ball could go across the goal line by a millimeter, and that determines whether it's a goal or whether it's out and it's saved. And in the professional leagues, you get to see on the cameras and things like that. But for us, it's like those are the tiny margins that make the biggest difference pending on your success. And I think that the standards that you set for yourself, this doesn't have to be just in professional sport, but it's in so many different arenas of your life that we actually take for granted and we don't pay attention to. So I'm going to dive into a bit of a personal story with this, but it's things like relationships. And when I was reflecting on this, I was thinking back to a time when I was in a relationship back when I was in America. And it was a relationship that was up and down, but it was full of highs and some incredible times. But it got to a point where I was finishing my career at college and I was trying to figure out what to do next. And it's not an easy process when at the time all I can think about is, where am I going to play football? Where can I go on trial? What places can I go? Because that's a question at the same time, right? You're not guaranteed anything in this world of sport. And for me to want to keep pursuing this because that's my passion, that's what I've devoted so much time, effort, and energy into, and that's what I love. So that's what I wanted to do. Now, with that, obviously, it comes a bit of stress and unknown. And to the other half of the relationship, it's obviously a time where it is very unknown and there's no real, There's no real like guarantees, basically. And with the fact of me probably moving away because I knew it wasn't going to be there, it is unfair and it's tough and it's really hard to deal with, especially when you're emotionally connected. Which causes stress and other issues at the same time. But I got posed a question where it was, at the time, I think I was very blinded by my emotions and my relationship, basically, because I valued it so highly and I really wanted it to work. I was blinded by that connection of what the question actually really meant. And basically what it was is I got told that I had to make a decision between the relationship or my career, and if I actually want to play sport and football, whether I want to keep pursuing my dream and give that up in order to make the relationship succeed. And at the time, as I said, I think I was completely blinded by it, and I kind of brushed it aside, saying like I'll be able to make both things work, blah blah blah. And for me, when I look back at that, I'm like, fuck, that's a big red flag. Like, for myself, I have to be aware of the standard of respect that I have for myself, but for my own goals and for the other person in the relationship to be like, if they truly want what's best for you, I believe that they would want to stay by your side and see you achieve the thing that makes you happiest, if that makes sense. Like, for me, if I was in a relationship, I'd personally want to see the other person succeed. I'd want them to pursue their dream to the edge of the earth and support them in whatever way possible to make that work. And I think that it's just only on reflection, right? Hindsight is a beautiful thing at the end of the day, because it does allow you to process these things and actually think about them in the detail and depth that they actually are. But now I know, after going through that situation, that scenario, that I can set standards for what I actually want, what I value in the relationships, and the other person, what they bring to the table, what I bring to the table, in that position of support, in that position of love, in that position of being a partner at the end of the day. And I think that that's what life is like, right? We learn through the tough times, and life does hit you hard in ways, but it gives you valuable lessons that when you reflect on them, you learn and you grow, which is quite incredible at the same time. And I think that being able to set those standards for yourself is so key, and just to have those and be aware of those in life and kind of live in action with what they are. So I think the first thing is to actually be aware of what your standards are and set those up for yourself. And look, there's so many different arenas in life where this is actually possible. And as I was talking about, it's not just in sport. It doesn't have to be like that just in your sport and your pursuit of your goals and excellence, because you may set very, very, very high standards for yourself there, but what else does that actually entail? Okay, what is your diet like? What's your nutrition like? What standards are you setting for yourself there? What standards are you setting for what time you go to bed? What processes and protocols do you have in place in order to maximize your sleep? Are you on your phone until 10:30 at night with blue light just in your eyes 3 centimeters away? Or is the phone turned off at 9 p.m. charging away in a different room, and then gives you time to wind down? Are you stretching? Are you practicing meditation? Are you working on your mental game as well as your physical game? All of these little things, like in these different arenas and sectors of your life, there are standards that you can set for yourself, right? And for me personally, like, don't know about you guys, this can change from individual to individual, but for me, I find that when I'm my best is when I am completely dialed in pretty much every single area of my life, and that's holding myself to almost elite standards. Although I'm not playing at an elite level, I'd like to treat myself like I am, because that's eventually where I want to be. And if I can't practice that now in a position where I'm not there yet, then there's no way that, by some miracle I get to this level and then all of a sudden I'm putting these things into practice, right? It's like, now in every kind of area, my discipline, if I let a little thing slide, whether it be my nutrition, whether it be my sleep, whether it be putting off that gym session because I'm a little bit tired and I've got training later on that day, if I'm just giving myself this little bit of room and not holding myself accountable, I feel like I then start to let this tight margin of error, I just let it separate a little bit, and then all of a sudden you see a different arena or a different sector of your life start to fall into the cracks, and then all of a sudden you let that go. Maybe I don't do the podcast that week because I'm like, yeah, you know what, it's all right, I don't have to, I'm not obligated to do it, but then I let that slip. I don't have to get on that call, I don't have to answer that message, but or that email, it could be with work, it could be with anything, right? It's like, yeah, I'm going to get back to that later, but if I'm on it and I'm completely dialed in and I deal with the shit that needs to be dealt with, and I'm setting the standards for my life. I actually wrote this down. I was like, people talk about holding yourself accountable and becoming like the highest version of yourself, and it's like, okay, who is that highest version? How do you even get there? And I think it's just by setting such incredibly high standards for yourself that you are the only one holding yourself accountable to that. So I actually wrote down, I set them as Stroudy standards, right? It's like Stroudy for me, I get called Stroudy on the football pitch, nickname, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I'm like, okay, what's Stroudy standards? What are the highest standards for me possible? And I started writing them down, thinking them, and then I become aware of them. And then when they slip, when they fall, at least I know that they're there, and I'm like, fuck, right, okay, that's a new thing that I need to concentrate on, because there's a reason behind why I'm doing this, and why am I letting this slip? What else is out of kilter in my life? And what do I need to fix in order to keep being the best every single day? It's these little 1%, right? And these little tiny margins of detail that need to take care of in order to grow, to progress, to keep getting better every single day. And I find that it's a challenge. It's just a challenge. It's like, how can you be as good as you can be all the time? And yes, it's not possible to do it all the time. Yes, there is room for error, but to be able to say, okay, this is where it is, and cut it dead, instead of letting that crevasse grow and just letting more shit getting piled up, I think that is so important. And I'm a sucker for that as well. Like, I do struggle when things start to fall through the cracks. It's like momentum builds, and then all of a sudden you find yourself at the bottom of this hill, looking back up thinking, I was so good 7-8 weeks ago. I was on it, and how all of a sudden am I in this shit place? It's like it happens that quickly, and then you have to slowly, one by one, build them back up again to where you've got that self-confidence and where you're feeling good and you're consistent and keeping things really, really disciplined. For me, talking about like nutrition and things like that, and I think that when you're in pursuit of goals, I was listening to something the other day, and someone was talking about, can't remember who, sorry, but someone was talking about identifying what takes away from the pursuit of your goals, right? It's like finding the things that take away your attention. What are the things that are negatively affecting your progress towards goals? And I think it's very important. And for a long time for me, I've believed that I've been able to attain certain goals in terms of my fitness, my mental health, my physical appearance, goals in terms of where I want to be in my football, what level I want to be playing at, etc., etc. And I believe that I've been able to balance that with being able to socialize, party, drink, being able to be this kind of social figure at the same time, and something that I really, really I enjoy. Like, who doesn't enjoy like a night out, going out, enjoying it with friends, blah blah blah, having a great time? Yes, the next day, hangovers, everything feels absolutely shit, and that's the price that you pay, right? It's the price that you pay for that fun time, and it's that dopamine rush, and then the drop and decrease. But the reality is, for me, that I've been doing it for I've been doing it for years, since high school, trying to be not just this footballer and good athlete, but also trying to be a guy who's life of the party, fits in with everyone, gets along with everyone, wants to be a people pleaser, wants to be liked by everyone, wants to have a good time, etc. And the reality is that if I'm going to be serious in terms of where I want to be with the person I want to be and the athlete I want to be, and where I want to be in terms of my future as a man, as a partner, potentially, as a potential father, a husband, as a footballer, as a podcaster, as whatever, I've had to make the call this year in terms of coming to the realization that there is no place for that. You can't have both. If you want to be elite, there is no room to diminish and devalue your body by what you're putting in it. And there's just no way that I can perform to my capacity and my potential with that kind of lifestyle. And it's something that I've really struggled with because I'm going to be honest, because I've been living alone this year, I've really struggled with that separation, because usually when I get my social time is when, or if it involves drinking, whether it involves going out, if it involves spending time at bars with people that I know and actually having those conversations, because that's where most people are relaxed. That's where most people go to socialize, and it's not just turning up for training where my social time is. It's like, okay, let's go out, etc. And that's one thing I've really struggled with this year, and I had to have a long conversation with myself about what my priorities actually are. And when I made that decision, I was fucking scared. Like, I was very scared to be missing out, to have that fear of missing out, to be judged for changing, for not conforming to the social norms, and to putting myself first, being judged for that. And the reality was that the action that I took to do this was to completely remove myself from any kind of temptation, and that meant staying in my apartment by myself Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then rock up to training the next week and be like, right, good to go for the week. And I'll tell you what, if you've got a game on Friday, for example, and then you've got Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday, essentially a whole 48 hours of isolation in the weekend, it's hard and it's really tough. And especially when you're overthinking things, when you're going through this and you're putting these things in your head, where am I doing the right thing? Fuck, I wish I could be out, and I wish I could have this social time. And for me, it was really scary, because I'd been so used to it for so long. But in the back of my mind, I know that it's the best decision for my health, for my mental health, for my recovery, for my performance, for my body, everything. And like, this is not saying, I'm not telling everyone it's like, I go sober, no alcohol, blah blah blah. No, like, have a good time, enjoy it, learn by going out and enjoying it, meeting new people. You don't know who you're going to meet. Like, it's fun. It's part of life. And I'm not saying that I'm going to be sober for the rest of my life. I'm just saying that, like, this is something that I've realized, and I've set a standard for myself that there is no place in my life right now, because of the things that I want to achieve. And the reality is that if people are going to judge you, are going to try and force you to go out, trying to force you to, and put you in a position to not achieve your goals, then you have to now set the standard for the people that you're surrounding yourself with in your life. Because the reality is that if you go out and you can only drink, and basically the only way to deal with certain people is to drink and get drunk and be around them, and that's the only way that you're comfortable, then you need to actually have a look at the people that you're spending your time with. That's something that I've figured out. It's like, because I want to be liked by everyone, because I want to be a people pleaser, I'm often the one who puts myself in situations to then make sure everyone's happy. The reality is you can't, and you can't control if people like you if they don't. And the thing is that when you do that, and actually when you start to set the standards for the people in your life that you want to be around, I know Dylan Morris, the episode that we did with him, the conversation that he was talking about, you actually realize that when you take those people out of your life and you make sure that you spend time with the ones who are good, who add things, who add value, who add incredible conversations, your frequency, your energy, your level of life just expands and it grows, and it puts you in a place where you can actually see yourself on the right path to achieving these goals and things. And it actually gives you the clarity to understand that you are on the right path. And it's quite incredible, and it's really, really, really refreshing as well. So I'm very grateful for the ones that have supported me in a decision to better myself and to actually ask about why you're doing that and what do you want to achieve, because that's quite valuable. It just reinstates for me why I'm doing it and helps me to stay focused on it. Whereas the ones who are trying to persuade you to bring you to their level, they're the ones that you set that standard. And I've actually had it a couple of times where I'm happy to go out, have a lime and soda, 0% alcohol beers and things like that, and it's like just have the substitute, still have the social time now where I'm comfortable in it, without feeling that pressure. I've actually had a couple of times where people will say, oh, just have one, just have a couple beers. I've actually just got up and walked off and just said, I'm gonna go home, because there's no point in me standing around and sitting around and having a conversation where that person feels like I need to be drinking just so then they feel comfortable. I don't think that adds any value into my life or theirs. So by removing myself and having that separation, I've actually found it quite liberating and freeing at the same time. And as I said earlier, I'm not trying to preach a certain lifestyle to anyone. All I'm saying is that with the standards that you set for yourself in the different areas of your life, they're just so important, because the ones that you can let slip, it can build on different things and impact the other areas of your life at the same time. So yeah, that's I hope you guys took some value from that. It's been a process and trying to reflect based on some of the experience that I've had this year, and it's been quite fun. It's really really fun for me, and I enjoy it. So I hope you guys get value out of it. If you get value out of it, and you may know someone who's struggling, you may know someone who can get value out of this, please share it. That's all I can ask. Just share it with one person, tell them to check it out, see if they like it. If they don't, no dramas. If they like it, share it with someone else, because don't know who's going to need value or maybe needs to hear this, but you're not alone, and that's the whole goal of why I started this podcast in the first place. Guys, I'm really enjoying this whole process. I've got a couple of incredible guests lined up for the next couple of podcasts. Really hoping to keep this going, see where we can get to. Just enjoy the process. Take care of you guys selves, and we'll see you back next time in the arena. Cheers.